Right now, somewhere in the Australian outback, a family is sitting down for dinner. There are no windows in their dining room. There are no windows anywhere in their house. The walls are solid rock. The ceiling is solid rock. And outside, it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit. A few thousand miles away, a woman in Greenland is wrapping up her day. The sun hasn't risen in 6 weeks. It won't rise for another 6. And in a mountain village in Japan, a row of figures sits waiting at the bus stop. They've been waiting for years. They're not real. These aren't movie sets. These aren't post-apocalyptic survival situations. These are just Tuesday. Normal life for real people in places that most of us can barely imagine. Today we're counting down 10 of the most bizarre places on Earth that people still call home. Some of these are remote beyond belief. Some defy physics, and at least one of them is technically on fire. Stick around for number 1, because compared to that place, everything else on this list looks like a vacation resort. Number 10, Setenil de las Bodegas, Spain. Most towns are built on the land. This one is built into it. Setenil de las Bodegas sits in a narrow river valley in southern Spain's Andalusia region, and at first glance, it looks like an architectural accident. Massive slabs of rock stretch out over entire streets, forming natural ceilings above homes, restaurants, and cafes. Not caves, actual buildings, with furniture and Wi-Fi and people arguing about football, just with an ancient geological formation serving as the roof. The town looks like it shouldn't exist. Every few years, a tourist takes a photo looking up at those overhangs and asks, could that actually collapse? And the answer, according to several centuries of structural evidence, appears to be no. Residents built outward from the cliff face rather than carving inward, using the rock as natural insulation against the brutal Andalusian summers. Walking through the lower streets on a hot August day, the temperature drops noticeably the moment you step under the stone. It's essentially free air conditioning installed by erosion about 2 million years ago. Around 3,000 people live here today, and the town gets tens of thousands of visitors every year. The weird thing? Locals barely notice the rocks anymore. It's just home. Number 9, Kinu Island, Estonia. Off the coast of Estonia, in the icy waters of the Baltic Sea, lies Kinu, an island so small you could walk its entire coastline in an afternoon, home to fewer than 1,000 people, and quietly famous for something you wouldn't expect. It's largely run by women. For generations, the men of Kinu spent much of the year at sea. Fishing trips lasted months, and so, gradually, women took on everything else. Not just the household, the farming, the finances, the decision-making, the cultural traditions. The island's folk music, hand-woven textiles, and traditional striped skirts have been passed down almost entirely through women, preserved so thoroughly that UNESCO recognized Kinu's cultural space as part of the world's intangible cultural heritage. The skirts, by the way, aren't for tourists. You'll see them on women doing their shopping or chatting outside the church on a Tuesday morning. That's just what people wear. In winter, when the Baltic freezes hard enough, the island gets an ice road, an official, government-maintained route where you drive a car across the surface of the frozen sea to reach the mainland. There are speed limits. There are also cracks in the ice, sometimes. Locals treat this with the same casual energy the rest of us use for the motorway. Number 8, Coober Pedy, Australia. Here's a game. Look at an aerial photo of Coober Pedy and try to guess what you're looking at. You'll see flat, burnt orange desert stretching to the horizon, a few industrial buildings, and dozens of small pipes poking out of the ground at odd angles. Those pipes are ventilation shafts, because underneath this desert is an entire functioning town. Coober Pedy was founded during an opal mining boom in the early 1900s. Workers discovered precious stones and a problem. The Australian outback in summer regularly hits over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius. Tents and tin-roofed shacks were unbearable, so miners did what made sense. They dug deeper, carved out rooms, and moved in. Today, the town has underground homes, underground hotels, underground churches, including one with stained glass windows looking out at solid rock and underground shops. These dwellings are called dugouts, and inside them the temperature stays stable around 75 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, no air conditioning required. Walking through Coober Pedy, you'll notice almost no one on the streets during the day. That's not because the town is empty. Roughly 2,000 people live here. It's because most of them are underground, living perfectly normal lives in carved-out sandstone, while the sun does its worst above. Number 7, Santa Cruz de la Slat, Colombia. There is a small island in the Caribbean Sea, off the coast of Colombia, that measures roughly the size of 2 football fields. On it live over 1,200 people. Santa Cruz de la Slote is frequently described as one of the most densely populated places on Earth. From the air, it looks almost impossible, a tight cluster of brightly painted buildings that seems to float on the water, every square meter accounted for. There are no cars because there's no space for roads. The paths between buildings are just wide enough for 2 people to pass each other. Fresh water doesn't exist on the island naturally, so it gets shipped in from the mainland, along with most food supplies. The community survives largely on fishing and on the kind of deep social bonds that form when you've lived this close to the same people your entire life. Everyone knows everyone. Disputes get resolved quickly, partly out of necessity. There's a school. There are small shops. Generations of families have been born, raised, and grown old here on this tiny patch of land in the middle of the sea. Outsiders sometimes ask why anyone would stay. Residents, from what they've said in interviews, mostly seem confused by the question above. Number 6, Nagoro, Japan. The first time you see a figure sitting at the bus stop, you think nothing of it. Someone waiting. Then you notice they haven't moved. You look more carefully. Then you realize the whole village is full of them. Nagoro is a small village in the mountains of Shikoku, Japan. Like many rural communities across the country, it's been slowly emptying for decades as younger generations moved to cities. Schools closed. Farms went untended. Houses stood empty. One resident, Tsukimi Ayano, responded to this in an unusual way. She started making life-sized stuffed dolls based on specific neighbors who had moved away or passed on, placed in spots around the village where those people used to be. A farmer in the field, a teacher at the front of the empty classroom, an old man at the table where he used to drink tea. What started as a personal memorial became something stranger and more beautiful. Today, Nagoro has over 350 dolls and fewer than 30 living residents. The dolls outnumber the people more than 10 to 1. Walking through the village is an experience that's difficult to describe, unsettling and deeply moving at the same time. It's a place where one person's grief became an entire landscape, where absence became visible. Number 5, Matmata, Tunisia. If you've seen the original Star Wars, and there's a good chance you have, you've already seen Matmata. George Lucas filmed parts of Tatooine here in 1976 because the location looked, in his words, like another planet. He wasn't wrong. Matmata is a village in southern Tunisia where many homes are built entirely underground. From the surface, all you see is flat, rocky terrain with circular openings like wells. Except instead of water at the bottom, there's a courtyard. These underground houses were designed as a practical response to the desert climate. Tunisian summers are brutal. Winter nights can be surprisingly cold. Digging down solved both problems at once, creating natural insulation that keeps interior temperatures stable year-round. Rooms are carved into the rock walls surrounding the central pit, connected by tunnels. Some of these complexes have multiple floors going deeper into the earth. The Star Wars crew came, built their sets, filmed their scenes, and left. Some of the structures they used are still there. And locals, who had been living this way for centuries before Luke Skywalker ever showed up, continue to do so with slightly more tourists than before, and one very famous connection to a galaxy far, far away. Number 4, Miyake-jima, Japan. Most people have deal breakers when it comes to choosing where to live. Too cold, too expensive, too far from family. The residents of Miyake-jima have apparently decided that active volcanic gas emissions don't make the list. Miyake-jima is a volcanic island about 110 miles south of Tokyo. It's dominated by Mount Oyama, which has erupted multiple times throughout history, most dramatically in 2000 when a major eruption triggered a massive release of sulfur dioxide gas and forced the entire population to evacuate. For nearly 5 years, the island was off limits. When residents were finally allowed to return in 2005, the volcano made clear the situation wasn't fully resolved. Sulfur dioxide levels still spike unpredictably. For years, all visitors were required to carry gas masks at all times, a rule that quickly became one of the more unusual standard precautions in travel history. Residents kept masks hanging by their doors like umbrellas. Conditions have improved, but Mount Oyama still smokes. Evacuation drills are part of life, emergency routes are posted throughout the island, and a small, stubborn community continues to fish, farm, and live in the shadow of a mountain that evicted them once and could do it again. Number 3, La Rinconada, Peru. There's a moment when you first arrive at high altitude where your body sends you a very clear message. This is not where you're supposed to be. La Rinconada sits at over 16,700 feet above sea level in the Peruvian Andes, perched near a glacier in one of the most remote mountain ranges on Earth. It is the highest permanent human settlement on the planet. The air at this altitude contains roughly half the oxygen found at sea level. New arrivals typically spend their first days bedridden with altitude sickness, headaches, nausea, exhaustion, the constant sensation that someone is pressing on your chest. Acclimatization takes weeks. Some people never fully adjust. Temperatures drop well below freezing. Sanitation infrastructure barely exists. Roads are rough and often impassable in winter. But the physical environment is only part of the challenge. La Rinconada grew faster than any government could realistically manage. With little formal regulation, limited policing, and thousands of transient miners arriving each year, crime and instability became part of daily life. Illegal mining operations, theft, and violence are ongoing concerns, and basic public services struggled to keep pace with the town's rapid growth. The reason people come and stay is gold. The mines surrounding La Rinconada operate under a system called cachorreo, where workers put in shifts for free, then on the final day of the month are allowed to carry out however much ore they can hold. One good haul can change a life. Most hauls aren't good. People come anyway. Tens of thousands of people now live in La Rinconada, drawn by hope and the particular human willingness to gamble on something better. It is a city where the daily act of climbing a flight of stairs leaves you breathless, and where, despite hardship, uncertainty, and risk, people have built an entire society in a place that seems almost impossible for human life. Number 2, Tristan da Cunha, South Atlantic Ocean. If you want to get to Tristan da Cunha, here's what you do. You fly to Cape Town, South Africa. Then you find a fishing vessel or research ship making the crossing, and you negotiate passage. Then you spend 7 days at sea in the South Atlantic, which is not known for calm weather. And then, if conditions allow, you arrive. There is no airport, there is no other way. Tristan da Cunha is a British overseas territory located 1,750 miles from South Africa and over 2,000 miles from South America. It is, by almost any measure, the most remote permanently inhabited island on Earth. Ships arrive only a handful of times per year. When bad weather hits, which is often the island can go weeks without any outside contact. About 250 people live here, spread across one settlement called Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. They share farmland, they fish. They know one another in the way that only comes from living your entire life within walking distance of the same few hundred people. Almost everyone on the island shares one of 8 family surnames. In 1961, a volcanic eruption forced the entire population to evacuate to England. After 2 years in Southampton, nearly all of them chose to come back. The outside world, it turned out, was not for them. Distance, they've said in various ways over the years, isn't really the hardship people on the outside assume it is. It's just their life. Number 1, Itokorto-Ormiat, Greenland. There are places on this list that are isolated, there are places that are extreme, and then there's Itokorto-Ormiat. Situated on the remote eastern coast of Greenland, Itokorto-Ormiat is accessible by helicopter or for a few weeks each year when the sea ice breaks up by boat. The nearest town is hundreds of miles away. The surrounding area is one of the largest and least visited national parks on the planet, a wilderness of glaciers, frozen fjords, and silence that stretches in every direction. Fewer than 400 people live here year-round. In winter, the sun does not rise above the horizon for nearly 3 months. In summer, it doesn't set. The sea freezes solid enough to travel on for much of the year, and temperatures regularly drop to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 40 degrees Celsius, and below. Residents have survived here for centuries by hunting polar bear, musk, ox, and seal, maintaining traditions and skills that have been refined by generations of people who had no other option but to understand this environment completely. Food sovereignty matters when the next grocery store is a helicopter ride away. What strikes visitors most, apparently, is not the hardship, it's the color. Bright red, yellow, and blue houses stand against the white landscape like something deliberately painted to push back against the scale of the wilderness around them. Small, human, stubborn. For the people who live there, Itokorto-Ormiat isn't the edge of the world, it's just the center of theirs. And that, across all 10 places on this list, might be the most remarkable thing of all. The human ability to make anywhere feel like home.